This is Travis Wayne Goodsell, and it looks like I get to give an update on the threats to my life. Yeah. If you've seen my other videos on the matter, you would know that I had been falsely arrested, falsely diagnosed, criminally diagnosed even, because it was a Russian diagnosis used back in the 60s, that because of its use in Russia, the international leaders all came out and banned any kind of diagnosis on those lines. And yet Utah's using it, though they're slightly altering the wording of it. And that's also what's going on here in my current situation. And so I miraculously got out. It was sort of an oops. I was placed in an area where the doctor and the evaluator all retired, along with Shurtleff and his chosen successor. They quit. The second guy had to resign under conspiracy charges along with Shurtleff. Of course, they got away with it. But I was freed, and I was going to therapy at North Valley, and the therapist had decided I don't need therapy, and I was then looking for another place to live to get out of Valley Plaza, which is assisted living apartment. And so because I just barely missed getting the apartment, the couple had beat me to it and were signing the paperwork as I arrived with the required form of payment. Valley Plaza then decided, okay, well, we'll ship them out to West Valley, where I am now, because it's independent and they'd leave us alone until they replaced the caseworker and the case manager, and the new caseworker was a terror, to say the least. Everybody was complaining because we liked the old system, and now she was trying to change everything and messing with our lives, and she put me back into therapy. And so after I had my near-death experience, being rushed to the hospital, which is on the thumbnail as well as in the video, I show the pictures of me when I was in the hospital in the emergency room. I said, no, I need out. No more therapy, no more drug. And I was only on one. Everybody was always shocked. You're only on one? Because when you're given one, you have side effects, and those side effects require more drugs to treat the side effects of the original drug, and more and more. And that's why most people in mental health, as well as the elderly, I got to talk with our old home teacher, but he's in that same situation, talking about how they have a diagnosis of something, and then they have to get more drugs because of the side effects. And when you're elderly, having high drug prices is not a good thing when you're supposed to be retiring and living off of the savings from your lifetime of work. But that's another tragedy that Trump is trying to take away from all elderly and disabled. Not aware of that, Republicans? I warned you, but nobody wants to listen to me. Anyway, And so I was able to get out, stop therapy again, stop the drugs again, or stop the drugs altogether. And of course, Madison, the caseworker, immediately when she found out that I missed my appointment with the brand new person, because again, both the drug prescriber person, I can't call her a psychiatrist, she's not a psychiatrist, but she prescribes the drugs, and then the therapist, both left around the same time. That's my cue. Exit stage left. And I never went back, and the therapist called me up and said, nope, one out, bye. And so Madison came over and, oh, you've changed. You haven't been around. You have no clue. And of course I was married at the time, so my wife Karen stood up for me. There's nothing wrong with him. She had to tuck her tail and leave. And I was able to continue my life without interruptions. And then they replaced Madison. And they replaced the case manager. And they replaced the landlord even. And so yes, that's when the threats began. And so I'm calling all the government agencies, I'm calling the police, and nothing happens. Finally, after filing continuous complaints because of the continual threats that Beth was making, police officers came over. They had their camera running, and they threatened me. The police, West Valley Police, threatened me. And like I've been talking to you guys about with the culture here in Utah, that's part of the culture. It's abusive culture. It's ingrained at birth. Babies grow up in that type of culture. They learn it from their parents. They learn it from their peers. They learn it from the leaders in both the church and the government, all of which are Mormon. And it's all ingrained. It's a systemic problem. And so I had to call the police on the police. And long story short, they changed. Beth no longer is over this apartment. And Percy Pearson is now over this apartment. He gave us a paper saying that it's independent living, because apparently he's the independent living case manager. Huh, who knew? And he was transferred from his other place all the way out here. But then today, at 3:45-ish, he comes knocking on my door and says, they're wanting me to inspect the apartments. And I said, no, you don't. Well, who's your therapist? I was told that I don't need one. That's why they sent me here. I'll have to check on that. Yeah, you do that. Bye. And so yes, I had to call the cops again to report the matter that Percy was brought in specifically to be the big male muscle to force me to comply. So yeah, the police did not resolve the issue. They did not hold Valley accountable. And now Valley is regrouping, reorganizing. They got rid of Karen. She was my witness. She's now gone. They brought in a new person, just as I knew was going to happen. That's how they operate. This is the systemic problem in Utah. They don't hold people accountable. They just switch things around, rename things, but it's still the same thing. And again, I'm I'm being threatened again. And so I had to notify Internal Affairs, because I still haven't had the original officer complaint settled. Because for all I know, they're still working there. For all I know, if anything, they may have gotten reassigned at the most, but I have no clue. They're not communicating with me to say, this is what we found, and we've taken care of the matter in this manner. No, they're not doing that. Utah does not admit error. They do not admit fault. They do not admit that they are to blame. That's the part of the systemic culture, and it comes from the religion. The religion thinks that they are of God, they are inspired by God, and all that they do is God's will. And so they never hold themselves accountable. They never. And it carries throughout the culture here in Utah. Everybody in every position, because they're born and raised Mormon, they think they are led by God and that they don't do any wrong. And they don't realize that what they're doing is threatening my life, my liberty, and my property. The three main constitutional rights. And you violate those, that constitutes a crime. But crime is not a crime anymore under Trump. And so, yes, alt-right Republican Mormons are grateful for Trump, because he is allowing Utahns in whatever level of authority to get away with whatever they want. And they call it religious freedom. And so, yes, I'm now in jeopardy again. And so we'll see if Internal Affairs actually does something this time, because I also threw in that Valley does not own this building. I don't pay them. If they own this building, they're getting paid by me. They're not getting paid by me as far as I know. I give my money to Danville Development, the landlord. They own the building. That's why they're the landlord. If Valley, in any way, form, or fashion, from any source, is receiving money to care for me, that's human trafficking. And I pointed that out to Internal Affairs. I've already contacted the Attorney General, and the Attorney General's office involved with that said, contact your local police. Unbelievable. So, yeah, today I did. So, yep. There's a big scandal brewing here in Utah, and it's about to blow. So, all these little things you're hearing here and there about the primary president sexually assaulting little kids from his primary class, the bishop who's sexually trafficking women, underage women, saying he was handling them. All of it, the BYU police withholding information, stealing information from the local police in order to punish the victims of rape. See, that it's part of the culture, guys. All part of the culture. And it's bubbling up. You know, just like Yellowstone. You can tell the sulfur is killing the trees. Mount St. Helens is about to blow in Utah, and so yeah, the church has got to stop what they're doing. They've got to say, all right, that's it. We've got to stop lying. We've got to stop covering things up. We need to accept accountability. We need to tell the truth. We need to put a stop to all this abuse from all of those below us because of our examples. And they won't do it. They won't do it. So, yep. So remember, Mormons, if you're unfamiliar with my other videos, you have to argue soundly that the church is true. If you can't do it, you have to leave. That's the agreement. I will stop doing videos critical of the church if you can soundly argue in defense of the church. Soundly argue. And you're all failing, and we're up to 175 total on day 5 today. And tomorrow morning it will be day 6 when I count up the totals and do another video on it. And I'll keep doing it until conference, at which point we'll be able to do other videos such as the new statistical report that the church will not talk about in conference because they said last year we're no longer going to talk about it in conference. And the reason why is because they're now losing membership. So yes, they did rise by 1.7%, which is the lowest it's ever been, despite being the highest they've ever been. They're losing. They're losing big time. And so that's because they're not factoring in those of us who no longer attend church, who no longer affiliate with the church. And so that's why I'm doing the Handbook 1 videos. And so, yeah, I'm exposing everything. And that's because I can soundly defend against the church. And so, yeah, I don't have to actually do much other than say, nope, the church's premises on this is wrong. So, is that a commercial? I think so, yeah. Okay. All right. So, just thought I'd update you on what's going on, and because the one thing that's been protecting me is making it public. Making things public exposes corruption. You know, similar to, I think it's Isaiah, who talks about the sins shall be revealed upon the rooftops. And we really don't have antennas anymore. Some people have satellites on their roofs. Like the neighbors across the way here to the west have a satellite antenna. But I think it's just for like that satellite TV rather than cable that I now have. Because DirecTV did not want to give me any offers to keep me, and so I said, you're gonna double my payments? No, bye-bye. So I just paid them off today because they wanted the money in 3 days. I said, no, give me time. So that was finally taken care of today. So yippee-ki-yay. And it looks like I'll be getting my royalties this month. Last month they had problems. I had to remind ACX, this is their last month for bounties, and I had 2 bounties coming my way for the final month. So, alright, but, so, yeah, ACX after this will be nothing. So, alright. That's it.